Ladies and gentlemen, IPA supporters, climate sceptics all, and any warmists who are here as well. We want you to feel that you're also welcome to join the debate. We welcome you all to this very important function the IPA is putting on this evening. And it's a particular honour, not only for Australia, I might say, but for the IPA to have as our special guest the President of the Czech Republic, Vaclav Klaus. Alan Greenspan went on to say that he and the President became good friends. But Greenspan said, "This was the first time in my life that I had ever been rebuked for not sufficiently appreciating the power of free markets."
What climate debate? There has not been a debate. All we've had is mindless cacophony, vilification, fraud, and the perpetuation of advocacy by groups like the ABC and the Fairfax Press. My concerns are the methodology of science. The word of consensus is not a word of science, it's a word of politics. We are ignoring huge bodies of knowledge. That is my field, geology. And we are ignoring history, and you ignore the past at your peril. And that is what we're doing. A long-term record for a meteorologist is 50 years. For me, the long-term record is 4,567 million years, during which time climate has always changed.
I thought it was just tremendous a couple of weeks ago when even the Prime Minister couldn't avoid Andrew any longer. And the question Andrew has been persistently asking, what will the carbon tax do to global temperature? And I was just delighted. Well, I would have preferred that she'd actually answered the question, but if she couldn't answer the question, I was just so pleased when our Prime Minister said, "Look, I'm not going to play the Andrew Bolt game." Can I introduce Andrew Bolt to introduce the President?
It's been another remarkable week in the global warming chapter of our history, a very sad chapter. I noticed that the government has put out a web page suggesting ways that we can fight this man-made global warming that is threatening the Earth. And one of its useful tips from the government, straight from the government to you, is that you can, if you're cold, go and hug your dogs. Fundamentally, we're talking about three things to pursue an agenda involving an imposition of a tax that everyone knows will not change the climate, to the extent that, as John says, the government refuses to even answer that question. It's a false question. One minister said, Greg Combe, I think, I've never heard of a false question, but there it is. A false question to say, by how much will your tax change the climate? So we're talking about a pretend tax to fix a pretend problem that nobody believes really will be solved by this, and we all have to pay attention. So I'm thinking of that, and I'm thinking of this incredible interference in the way you live your life, even to the extent of being told to hug your dogs, and I'm thinking, when we ask for the question, where will we find a Messiah to reveal the truths to us and smite the unrighteous and drive these people from the temple? And a voice comes to me from the Czech Republic.
One danger, communism is over and we have a chance to build a free society. That was my very optimistic message 20 years ago. I'm afraid now I feel threatened again. I feel threatened not by communism. I feel not by climate or global warming, but by the global warming doctrine and the global warming activists all over the world who try again to threaten my life and my freedom. So that's my position, and that's why I spent the last 5 years writing, speaking about the issue of the so-called global warming, and I of course agree very much with Jan Plimer in this respect, what he said earlier. What to say now? As I said, I'm afraid. By the way, Andrew, our interview on ABC in TV, it was on Sunday, the interview, if I am not wrong. So I just got sitting here, I got an SMS message that the Czech TV is broadcasting the ABC interview at 6:30 p.m. in Prague, which is quite interesting. I would have never expected anything like that, Which means it has some impact, not just here. I am privileged to know Professor Plimer. I am privileged to know some other important scientists, and I often quote, not just here in Australia, another well-known and well-respected Australian scientist, Bob Carter, who keeps stressing and repeating that there is no climate emergency. I fully agree. But this simple, elementary, and I guess for most of us almost self-evident statement is, however, in a sharp contrast with the teaching of the global warming doctrine, in sharp contrast with the rhetoric of many allegedly responsible, caring, and far-sighted politicians, both here and elsewhere, and their fellow travelers in the media and academia. It's in sharp contrast with the ambitions of international bureaucrats who try to justify the existence of their organizations. And I am sure the UN and the EU are the best examples of that. To justify the existence of their organizations by fighting the climate. They have nothing else to do. Simply they are absolutely fascinated by the fact that they finally found a cause, to justify their existence. It's in a sharp contrast with the, for me, not scientific, rent-seeking behavior of many climatologists who try to maximize the money from grants coming to them by all means, and they try to attract the worldwide attention by scaring us about the climate. And this is in sharp contrast with the lobbyists, investment bankers, from all kinds of businesses, because for them it's great to get into highly subsidized anti-global warming projects. And I know that investment bankers are extremely pleased with the emission trading scheme. It's for them a chance to get a lot of money, because this to trade such a nonsense is absolutely perfect. So they already have problems to get enough revenues. So now they are getting a new venue how to get them. So you are helped by your prime minister, and others. So, as was mentioned here already, I have been trying to argue that the global warming doctrine is fundamentally wrong. For many years now, I presented my views in tens or perhaps thousands of speeches, articles, interviews all over the world, and as was mentioned here, my book Blue Planet in Green Shackles has been already translated into 17 languages, which is quite a surprising success. Languages like Japanese or Arabic and such countries. As I always have to stress, this book of mine is not a study in climatology. I don't compete with Professor Plimer, definitely not. I just try to understand his teaching and teaching of his colleagues and use the results. My book is an essay in political philosophy or in the economics of global warming. And for me, who doesn't want to read a book can just read the the title, because the subtitle of the book is what is in the question, what is endangered, climate or freedom? My answer is climate is okay, but freedom is endangered. And that's the substance of the book. It's not necessary to read it. To spend your time, you can allocate your time in a better way and to maximize the utility of your endeavor in a different way. As an economist, I permanently think in those economic terms, and I'm trying to maximize my utility of being 10 days in Australia, and that's part of the story. I'm almost afraid that the gap between the independent thinkers and the institutes like this one, the Institute of Public Affairs, and the government probably is bigger in Australia than in any other country, if I'm not wrong. I don't see any real climate threat connected with global warming in a meaningful time horizon. I do see measures already introduced or planned for the future which substantially endanger our freedom. I do see a very irrational, very wasteful allocation of scarce resources which endanger our prosperity. And I do know that the fight with the climate has no meaning, as Professor Plimer described very eloquently, because that fight can't be won. So I would suggest to deal with other issues, not with a non-existent global warming. Thank you very much for your attention.